probably your strategy on fundraising has changed, right, over the last 10 years that Chaldal has been operating as. But right now, if you think about it, local fundraising has come certain ways. And I'm sure, like, for example, IDLC Ventures, if I'm not wrong, is one of the
IDLC itself is one of our holders. So basically, if you buy IDLC stock, you actually have exposure to Chaldal in the stock market.
But you guys have cracked that complicacy that most people initially had, right? For example, you're registered outside. How does a local VC come on your cap table? Probably it's through a warrant that gives them something at the holdco level as well. But I think, if I'm not wrong, you were Chaldal was the first startup that kind of cracked it with IDLC.
Yes, the problem was that আমরা যখন Series A করতে যাই তখন I had really good numbers actually when we were doing Series A. And I spoke to Andreessen Horowitz, I spoke to Founders Fund, and no one was just willing to move on Bangladesh, right? Maybe I did not look wide enough, but I had reached. At Series A তে গিয়ে আমাদের একটা সমস্যা হলো যে it's one thing to give you $2-3 million. It's completely different when you're asking for a lot more, right? So actually Series A was 5.2. So, but I guess it's one thing to give you $200,000-$300,000 at 5 million. So then the question becomes that who sits in your board seat? তোমার কি governance আছে নাকি না, etc., etc.
Y Combinator, did they want a board seat?
No, Y Combinator never wants a board seat. So ওই জায়গাটায় গিয়ে একটা সমস্যা হলো. So at that point we had to bring in IFC. So we approached IFC, and IFC was we need to have a local partner because we think that that's based on our 50 years of experience, that works out to be actually quite a good thing. So that's how IDLC came in. At that point, basically cracking IDLC, it was just $1 million investment. I could have raised it from somewhere else, but I thought that it was important to diversify the sources of funding. For a startup, you don't want to always depend on foreign investor or local investors or public markets or banks or grants. You need to have a diversified strategy. It took quite a bit out of me personally to get that contract going. Two years of my life actually. Not IDLC এক বছর তারপর next যে major local investor আসছিল Mir Group. Because the legal terminologies, বাংলাদেশে কোন ল আছে, আমেরিকান কোন ল আছে, ইনভেস্টর কি চায় সবকিছু রিফ্লেক্ট করতে, it was very difficult.
But what it did was it set a precedent. I think
it created the market, right?
So a lot of follow-on investments kind of followed that model.
Yeah, pretty much most of the startups have followed that model. Startup Bangladesh uses that template, right? So it created the Bangladeshi VC ecosystem. It's the time I think the first person আগে আমাদের বাংলাদেশে তো জমি কিনে বিল্ডিং বানাতে, ওই যে শেয়ার যে ওনারও কয়েকটা ফ্ল্যাট পাবে, রিয়েল এস্টেট ডেভেলপার কয়েকটা ফ্ল্যাট পাবে, এই কনসেপ্টটা কিন্তু ছিল না. This concept came in the 1990s, and I think it was BTI that cracked that concept. And once BTI had cracked it, it led to a real estate boom in Bangladesh. So sometimes that legal instrument, that thinking is missing. So if you crack it, it unlocks the ecosystem. So I think that was one thing we did well, and it's probably something that I can be proud of in a few years.